And some agents don't even realize that they're getting traffic until they put the AI chatbot on, and then it captures. At the end of the day, like, no one really cares that much about you and your data, but we have had some agents who've gotten like Christmas presents for Madison, like not joking. So like some people will think it's a real person.
What would you do with an extra 10 hours a week?
That's a really good question, Braden.
Do you go on more dates?
If I would go on more dates, maybe. Okay. Oh my gosh, maybe sleep more.
I talk to people in the space, like I talked to this one guy who does presentations for like the Senate, and he's on the very tip of it. And he's saying it's moving so fast, we're adopting. And then I talk to agents and I'm like, most people are still barely using ChatGPT.
Hey, it's me, Coach B. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Breakthrough. I think you're going to like this conversation. I interviewed my friend Peter from REALTY AI. Him and his business partners have created this really cool chatbot that they install on your website that essentially nurtures and converts online traffic to your website into real appointments with real people. All while potentially you're sleeping or doing other things with your life, which is pretty darn cool. But I didn't want to just speak with Peter because of their service, although we do talk about the software and how it works and whatnot later in the interview. I wanted to pick Peter's brain specifically about artificial intelligence and automation, specifically in real estate businesses, but even a little bit in our personal lives as well. So in this conversation with Peter, we talk about from a very, very basic kindergarten level to a little bit more advanced as we go through conversation around what is automation, what is artificial intelligence, what are some of the obvious use cases for AI and automation in our businesses. And one of the parts I enjoyed most about this conversation was what are some of the ways that we can sort of point to or spot things in our business that are ripe for automation or embracing artificial intelligence. So this is a really great conversation for anyone who's newer to the world of AI. Like if you're like, AI overwhelms me, I can't even spell AI, then this is a conversation for you. And if you're, one of those real estate tech nerds, I'm sure you're going to pick up something or two along the way as well. And the reason why I think this is such an important conversation is very simply this idea that if you could find one 15-minute task that you were to let go of through automation or through artificial intelligence, if you had one 15-minute daily task, that adds up over a course of a year to 4 days in a year. Think about that for a second. If you're having a hard time finding time to take a long weekend off, you could actually take not just 3 days, but 4 days off if you can automate a 15-minute daily task. So hopefully this conversation will inspire you to start looking at your business for some opportunities to lighten the load so you can, of course, work less and earn and live more. Hope you enjoy it. See you in there. So I think the most appropriate way to start this conversation is to ask you the question, why are you dressed so nicely today?
Because I'm meeting with you, brother.
No way, man. You look like a guy who's going on a date after this interview who regrets telling me that he's going on a date where we record the podcast. Is that right?
Actually, I dress down. So I usually have my white dress shirt. If you can tell, this is a new tee.
All right, so you're really, I was like, not even going to play along with me, hey?
I didn't know the vibe, Braden, so I just wanted to be ready. It was business casual, okay?
This part probably won't make the final one. I just wanted to see if I could get you there. So they're okay. That's fine. Okay, well, Peter, thank you so much for being a guest on our show. I know you understand a little bit about what we're here to accomplish. And, I do think of you as a subject matter expert in one of the core tenets of our breakthrough method, which is automate the repetitive. And I thought, and you're going to kill me because I know I sent you questions in advance, but like we're not even going to talk about those questions. Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. We'll kind of go there. I want to ask you, I was thinking about this this morning as I was preparing for a conversation, like, you hear automation discussed somewhat, but I think the word or the phrase I hear way more in the last year and a half, and I know it's a 2-letter word that you spend all day talking about, which is AI, right? Artificial intelligence. So I got a couple questions, but I thought we would kind of answer them in hopefully a fun and engaging way for us and for the audience. But like, what is the difference between AI and automation, or is there a difference? And so I want to start with asking you like what your definition of AI is. But I thought to make it more fun, I don't know if you've ever seen any of these videos online where people like explain a concept, but they explain it at like a kindergarten level and then like a grade 12 level and then a PhD level. I don't know if we can actually do that, but I'm just curious, like if you were trying to describe to a kindergarten person what AI is, I can't even say it and it's only 2 letters. How would you answer that question?
Yeah, so I guess I would start with automation because I would say automations came before this huge wave of AI.
Okay.
But automation is just like a task that you do, having a system in place that does it for you. And so like, for example, if someone calls me and I get their name, phone number, email, and then I write that down, and then I then send them a text tomorrow. What we could do is we could just have a system that captures that for us and automatically sends that text tomorrow. So it's like, and that might be a bit of a complex example.
Yeah,
like,
no, you're talking to a grade 12 person, but yeah,
what about posting a photo? So let's say you post a new photo on Instagram.
Yeah.
You can have a system automatically caption and post that for you. You can even schedule it in Instagram.
Yeah.
That's technically an automation.
Okay.
And so it's essentially any task that you're doing, you're getting a system to do it for you. And so that's the automation piece.
And I want to take a swing at it. And I've had the benefit of thinking about this in advance, but I promise I didn't actually think about this till now. But it's like, if I was explaining automation, because if this, then that is a form of an automation. Is that right? Like, or is that would be
if
AI?
This, then that.
So for example, if it's raining, then I will bring my umbrella. Like that's an automation, right? Like if it's sunny, I'll wear my sunglasses. Like if this, then that, like Zapier things.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
We can get into
a program called If This Then That, like IFTT, and I think Zapier may have come around and like made it irrelevant. But I think about that a lot. Like if someone signs up for my MailChimp newsletter, then add them to this Google Sheet.
Yes.
Is that an automation or AI?
So that's automation. So that is like, we can get into Zapier and Make. Those are probably the biggest two.
Okay.
That in terms of like workflow automations.
Sure.
But essentially, like you said, an activity occurs. If something happens, then it'll dish it to. So an easy one is like if a lead comes in, if it's a buyer lead, they'll send the buyer guide. If it's a seller lead, it'll send the seller guide.
Yeah.
And it'll recognize that based on the intent.
Amazing. So I think we've probably overwhelmed the kindergartner. But if we were talking to a master's level person, like let's talk automation again. How would you describe an automation to someone who has a real estate license? Like obviously they have the minimum have a high school diploma to have a license. They've lived some life. They're probably in their 30s or 40s, maybe older, and we're trying to explain to them what an automation is. How would you explain that?
Yeah. So like I said, it's as simple as just getting a system to do a task that you do. But in terms of how we see that actually show up in real estate, it's stringing together a series of repetitive tasks and getting AI to do it. So, or getting it to be automated. So for example, a lead comes in, it's automatically going to flow into your CRM. And then from there, it's automatically going to text that lead. It's automatically going to email that lead. It's automatically going to put that person on a drip campaign or a touch point campaign. And so we have them set up for specific touch points based on their intent. And so we can connect all of these things.
Right.
We can even go further. And let's say someone signs up on our website. They then are viewing a specific property. We can then reach out. Again, this might be a little big brother, but we can reach out based on the activity that they did on our website and send them a personalized message. And so, again,
like an example, as I'm looking at a condo downtown and I might get a message saying, interested in downtown condos, here's our condo buyer guide or something like that. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah. Or let's say the AI assistant would pop up and say like, hey, I see you're viewing this property. Did you have any questions about this specific build? Or like, would you like to see similar properties, for example?
Gotcha.
So it's all about the context.
So going back to the example, the contrast between automations and AI, when you talked about like the series of steps and things getting connected, that still to me feels in the realm of automation. Maybe I'm wrong in that, but like, let's go back to kindergarten class for a second. Like, how would you explain AI to a little one?
Oh God, AI is, and again, you're talking to me, who is the face of the business. I should have brought my developer on here.
No,
really.
it's all good, man. It's all good. Hey,
But
you're the face of your business. I'm the ass of mine. We'll figure it out.
yeah, man, artificial intelligence is just it's just next level. And so how we see that show up is like, I would say, and I don't want to get into the dangers of AI, but like, essentially it's a system.
Go there, just so you know, we might go there today.
We might go there. It's a system that is trained on how to essentially think. And the challenge is that AI actually, it teaches itself. So it reiterates based on the data. And so it essentially learns things that we don't even understand yet, because we just built the AI on how to think. And so when we're talking about AI, we're talking about like, you know, ChatGPT, that comes to mind, Gronk. These are all systems that are built to think and do complex tasks for us.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially we don't have to, like with a Zapier workflow, we have to build
Zapier,
those
just
steps.
for our audience, is you know, a 5 to 25 year agent who's crushing it in sales, but doesn't have a lot of systems. So they probably don't have time to keep up with what the heck a Zapier is. So like what's a Zapier or a Zap? Like that is a tool that connects other tools, right?
Exactly. So it allows two applications to communicate.
Right.
And so we have to set all that up. Whereas like something like the goal of AI and ChatGPT and all that is that we ask it to do something and it does the things in the workflow for us. Like it skips a lot of the steps because it's so smart. It's just taking it intelligence to another level.
Totally. And if I was in that kindergarten class, and I don't know if this makes sense or not, but how I would maybe try to explain it is like, you know how you can get your dog to like sit or roll over, or based on certain commands, it will do different things. It's like, that's what we're teaching this like little robot to do. It's like we ask it to do a thing and it knows based on what we've asked it to do, what task to perform.
Exactly.
Is that maybe I should I be a kindergarten teacher? That may have missed my calling. So if we were explaining AI to a room of agents, you know, presumably in their mid 30s to mid 50s, they've been doing this. Like, how would you describe AI to that group?
Yeah. So I think I don't think you need to understand exactly how AI works and like the complexities of what it actually means, but what it means for you and some of the applications. And so like if you're an agent, you're 30 to 50, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis in your business? Like starting from the top of funnel, how are you generating traffic? How are you engaging your clients? How are you capturing new leads? How are you handling the buying and selling process all the way up until close? What are those day-to-day activities? And then, hey, can we use some of these AI tools to automate the process? And that's kind of what we do in our presentation is like, there's tons of tools that'll help you with content. Let's say, for example, Hey Jen, you upload text and it creates videos for you. There's other tools that'll help caption videos for you and post them for you. It really depends on what the agent, I would say, the tasks in their business that's taking the most time, because that's going to give them the highest ROI if we think about automating that task.
Right.
So
most time, or I would also throw in there just from our program, like most energy draining versus energy giving. Is one aspect. And then I'd also throw in there low dollar value versus high dollar value to your business, right? So like if we imagine like a matrix, a 4-quadrant matrix, you know, on one axis we have low value and high value. On the other, we have energy giving or energy draining. There is a quadrant, and it's probably like the stuff that's in the sweet spot that's high value and energy giving. Like, well, you probably want to spend time there, even if a task could be automated in that quadrant. Maybe that's not the right quadrant to automate for you because it actually gives you energy. Like
totally.
But the bottom, the opposite end of that is the lower value energy sucking stuff, soul sucking stuff. And I'm like, that is my favorite area to start with people. And then of course, then you have the other two quadrants, you know, high value energy draining and high energy low value, but those are, I'm less concerned about at first. It's usually that first quadrant.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Like, it's not just what takes the longest. If you enjoy doing certain things, like some people love social media. Maybe you want to edit, maybe you love editing videos, do that. For me, I hate the documents, and I hate that kind of like paperwork element. So I'll automate like the DocuSign, the contracts, all that if I was a real estate agent, which I'm not.
So that segues into, I know I'm kind of doing this in reverse, but I wanted to kind of jump right into the pool with you on the automation AI thing, because I just was curious to know your answer, to be honest. But why don't we get to the intro for you? Tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into the technology space? I know, because I've met your partners, you are not the evil genius wizard in the lab. You're the sales guy like me on the front side, talking about all the cool things that it can do. I know you're techie because I've seen your presentations that you've done for our office, which were amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
If anyone is looking for a great tech talk at their sales meeting, reach out to Peter. Give us a little bit, like, your background. How did you get onto this podcast? Like, what's going on?
I have no idea. I just joined the link.
Yeah.
No, so thanks, Braden. Yeah, so my background's in business, and one of my passions was making videos. And so I started a video company. We did social media marketing for real estate agents. And so we did that for a few years. And then one of our agents came to us, and they were getting a lot of questions. Like, people messaged them on Instagram, and they wanted some sort of like AI chatbot to handle that. And so that led us to developing Realty AI, which we joined a startup accelerator. And then last year we officially launched. And then as of now, we have over 200 clients, over 1,000 agents across North America. So we're scaling, and we essentially created an AI assistant that connects to agents' website, engages their visitors, answers questions, books meetings, and captures leads for them 24/7. Simple, I guess, example would be like, let's say you open a coffee shop. You have a lot of people coming to your coffee shop, but you don't have a barista. We give you the barista that's going to sit in your coffee shop, your website, 24/7, answer inquiries, capture people, and generate you business. So,
yeah, I love that. That's a great metaphor.
Thank you.
Example.
I didn't come up with that. An agent gave us that, actually.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Well, they spend a lot of time waiting for coffee in coffee shops. I'm sure, if they're a realtor. So I, and if it's not obvious, Peter and I know each other. That's why I can tease him like this on a public forum and not feel guilty about it. But you were kind of humble, saying like, you're not the tech guy, you should have brought the whatever. But I know you have a really strong affinity for technology. I'm curious. You're the one who's on the front line having conversations with agents, either because they've sought you out, because they know what you offer and they want it, or sometimes you're talking to rooms of agents, like, at my sales meeting, where maybe 5 or 10% of the audience knows what you're doing and wants to participate, but you're also like having to persuade a lot of people you talk to either educating them on how this can help them, or overcoming their fears and objections. And I just thought maybe we could play like real estate psychologist for a second, based on all the conversations you've had. Like, what are some of the biggest misconceptions, red flags that get raised in your conversations? Like, if this was your opportunity, that everything you're about to say, people will just buy it at face value and get onto your program, like, what would you want people to know based on your conversations?
So a really good quote I like is from Alex Hormozy, or his wife, and it talks about how fear is a mile wide but an inch deep. And so it looks really scary, but as soon as you take that initial step, you realize, this is really chill, this is easy, I can do this in like 30 minutes, and it's going to save me tens of hours of time. So yeah, from like the presentations we've done since our AI series launched last June, you were actually our first office, Braden. So shout out to you.
Oh, thank you. Is that why it was such a shaky presentation, the first one?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I
thought it was your.
I don't know how we got invited back. It was rough.
Your first one was good. Your second one was great. So way to go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, we presented to agents that are, older agents, younger agents, middle-aged agents. I think coming into a space, like as someone who's kind of new to the real estate space, like 3 or 4 years, I don't like to tell agents how to run their business, especially if they're older agents. They already have systems. They already have referrals word of mouth. But I think taking more of like a curious approach and sort of like, did you know that you can actually save 10 hours a week from this stuff that you're doing? You can just set this automation up or use this tool, and it's actually going to help you. And like, don't try to sell people stuff. Just try to come in with some value. That's why we offer those free tools.
Yeah.
And people are a lot more receptive because people have their guard up these days. Maybe not in Victoria, but in these big cities, man, people are ruthless. We used to cold call. It was rough.
Yeah, man. I've been there. I was in a workshop years ago. It was about a different approach to sales. And I thought the way that the presenter opened was brilliant. They're like, put your hand up. Remember, it's a room full of salespeople. They're like, put your hand up if you like to sell. They're like, everyone's hand. Yeah, love selling. And they're like, keep your hand up if you like to be sold. And then everybody's hands drop. They're like, do you see what just happened? Like, we all love the idea of getting a sale, but nobody, for the most part, likes to be sold to. And so, yeah, no, I love that approach. And we are going to talk about the different tool recommendations that you have in this interview. Cool. But you mentioned like apprehension around if I could sort of like reframe it, it's like, this is complicated. I don't think I have the time to make it work. And you're saying it's actually easier than you think, especially if you hire a service like yours where you're, actually helping them set up the tools. But can we also address the fear factor around, because this is what I hear. It's like, is this going to replace me? Like, if I embrace AI tools, will my clients start hiring AI tools instead of me as their agent? What's your hot take on that?
That's something we talk about all the time.
Replacing realtors? Well, this conversation is over.
Not replacing agents. Just how AI replaces certain jobs. But
yeah,
when you think about real estate, it's the biggest transaction someone makes in their life. And so as good as an AI model can be, I would rather trust a face like Braden to help me find my home and make that transaction. So I think like the relationship piece of real estate is always going to be relevant and prevalent. And I don't think you can replace that. Maybe for investors that are just caring about like, investment properties, maybe they'll just be booking it online, kind of like how people can order cars online now, which kind of removes the salesperson a bit. But I don't see that really happening for houses for a very long time because it's such a big, important transaction.
And this is, I don't want to get canceled from my own freaking show. Maybe that's why I have my own podcast, so I can say whatever the hell I want. And come at me, send me your hate mail. But I think you're being very kind by saying it'll never replace. I think my answer is, I don't know. Like, people were literally buying real estate next to Snoop Dogg in the metaverse like 3 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, that was a thing. People wanted to buy a virtual plot.
I never said never, but
yeah,
it'll be one of the last to go.
And I agree with that because I was amazed to find out this was even a thing. There's a profession called being a futurist, and being a futurist is like you get paid to predict the future. What a wild job that is. And this futurist was being asked about, this was like 10 years ago when I read this. I think it was on Inman News. And they were asking like, is tech going to replace agents? And they said the reason why tech, because there's billions of dollars in the real estate industry when we're talking about not commissions, but like construction and all this, like the real estate sector is huge. And so tech is always trying to infiltrate it, but it's had difficulty doing it. So there's certain criteria that need to be in place in order for something to be displaced. And I always forget them in the order you give them, but he said, is it a frequent or infrequent transaction? So for example, getting a cab might be fairly frequent in big centers. So that's why Uber has such a strong, market presence, right? Is it a low value task? So hailing a cab is a $20 issue, whereas buying a house is a $200 to $2 million or whatever issue. Is it a low risk or high risk proposition? Well, not getting my cab might mean I'm 10 minutes late for my date, but it's not like a huge risk, right? Whereas like real estate transaction, that's a significant risk. If you buy a house with an underground oil tank and you didn't have the expert in place to help find that ahead of time, like that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars an issue. And the other, I think the fourth one was, is it litigious? Like, are there a lot of rules and regulations? I mean, so you think about real estate, it's an infrequent purchase. It's a high risk purchase. It's a high ticket item purchase. And there's a lot of red tape. It's tough.
Yeah.
But I also think there's the previous Remax CEO, Nick Bailey. I think honestly, this quote rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but I kind of agree with them. Is he's like, I don't believe technology will replace agents, but I believe that agents that don't embrace technology will be replaced. And I know that because that's the challenge I have with anyone who's skeptical or scared or reluctant to use AI. It's like, I hear you 100%. I totally understand that. People had similar fears around DocuSign, had similar fears around TouchBase, had similar fears around the MLS being on. Like there was a lot of fear every time, the internet in 2000, whatever is going to put us all out. But there will be agents who do embrace tech. And then I believe they start eating our lunch. And then we've accidentally put ourselves out of business because we didn't keep up with the times.
If you're watching this episode, there's probably a pretty good chance you're looking to free up some more time to do what you love both personally and professionally. But maybe you don't know where to start. Don't worry, we've got you covered. Our breakthrough method is designed to help you get 10 hours a week back every 90 days. And the first step towards your next breakthrough is completing our resource review to see where you're investing your time, money, and energy. We've created a free guide with instructions and a template for you to use to complete the resource review. You can grab a copy at bradenwheatcroft.com/resource or grab a link in the description down below. All right, let's get back into the episode.
Yeah.
So that's
it would be AI agents. I don't know if you've heard of AI agencies or AI agents.
I have. Yeah. So, okay. Off my soapbox. Let's talk more about some of those fears. So fear of complexity, fear of being replaced. What other fears have you come across or concerns have you come across from agents who, kicking tires on whether AI and automation works for them? What have you heard in business development calls?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with humility too, because whenever you learn something new, it's going to be tough. And you really don't know what you're doing. We didn't know what we were doing 3 years ago. We had to figure it out. And it's also, I'll give you this. We're still so early on in the adoption curve. We are probably at the tip, the first 10, 15%. We talk to agents.
We're in the early adopters.
Yeah, that graph from Marketing 101 where it's
Simon Sinek talks about it in Start With Why. It's the law of diffusion of innovation. And it's your innovators, your early adopters, your late adopters, your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards.
Exactly. And so I talk to people in the space, I talked to this one guy who does presentations for the Senate, and he's on the very tip of it. And he's saying, it's moving so fast, we're adopting. And then I talk to agents and I'm most people are still barely using ChatGPT. Yeah. And so don't worry, take it one tool at a time, take it one step at a time, and have the humility and give yourself some grace. It does take time to learn these tools. Yeah. And you don't have to do everything at once. It can be overwhelming. There's so many tools. But focus on something that you do in your business that's repetitive, like you said, or Braden. It's repetitive. It's a bit of a time or energy suck. Focus there first.
Yeah, and I want to do kind of do that exercise with you live of spotting some opportunities for automation or AI. We are going to talk specifically about your tool towards the end of the interview about how people can do. Because I think that's a huge opportunity for them to dip their toe in the water of AI, because it's pretty plug and play from what I've seen, and it's a use case that I think most agents, if they're being really honest with themselves, are not quite hitting the bar on fast response and staying in touch with leads. So, are there any other objections, fear, whatever that you've heard? We've got the complexity, we've got the value prop. You've said it beautifully, the grace and humility aspect. I would say myself included, who likes to feel like a novice at something, particularly when you're
Yeah.
dealing with people who are very successful and have been at the top of the field for a long time. It kind of sucks to feel like you don't know what the heck you're doing in a certain domain. So I completely get that. That's a great insight. Anything else come to mind as far as challenges that you've come across?
Yeah, like we get some questions around like security and like
Yeah.
data.
Let's talk
Kind of
about that.
like, and just because everything's so new, right? So we're kind of navigating that as well. But like there's so much stuff out there on the internet now. Like remember when Facebook came out and everyone had fears around, oh, these photos are going to be up and my kids are going to see them. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of a personal one to get over. But at the end of the day, like no one really cares that much about you and your data. And a lot of these big companies have to go through hoops as well. And so I would say like, as long as you're using some of these legitimate tools that have employees, like your data is safe as it is on Facebook or Meta. So,
or a bank, right? Like, so I'll push back a little bit because I think we agree, but I hear what you're saying. But I want to say, like, I'm sure what you're not saying is play fast and loose with your data and your clients' data and leads data. Like, don't care. Use your password as password for everything. I know you're not saying that.
Sorry, I'm not talking about your clients' data and your leads and all that. That is super important, and keep that close to yourself. I'm talking about like, you know, if you're creating content or if you're doing some sort of automations, like, and it's going through like a Google Doc, like keep your CRM yours. And I know a lot of agents actually don't like to use the CRM their brokerage provides because of this reason. They're scared of
Big Brother
losing their leads. Yeah.
I heard that with Remax, with when KV Core was introduced, and it was more, and it was interesting. It was like another one of those, and I don't want to make this a political show because it's not, but like, it's one of those differences between Canada culture and US culture, because all the Facebook groups I was a part of, I'm some that are North American, some that are Canada only, some that are US, whatever. The Big Brother, or is Remax going to steal my client's data or their info from KV Core, felt very much like an American perspective. I did hear it a little bit in the Canadian groups I was a part of, but very like it was like maybe 1 out of 10 compared to 10 out of 10 with the American friends. So I don't know if that's a common thing that you see, but you know, what are some questions around the security side of things? If someone said, hey, you know what, I get it. Like, we live in an online world. We've all given up. Like, DoorDash knows way too much about me. Let's just put it like, you know, we've all given a lot of our privacy up for convenience, mobile ordering and online purchases, etc. We're all part of some aggregated group of data that's being sold to a million different third parties for lots of money. If you watch the Netflix documentaries on this stuff, but that's still not saying be reckless. And so I'm curious, like, if I was a prudent agent who was concerned about privacy, was concerned about the security of the data and whatnot, like, what are some of the things, if I was vetting like your app versus another one, they do the same thing, but one company takes security seriously and the other one doesn't. Like, what are the things that I'm looking for?
Well, you can always ask like where the data is stored and how is it stored and what providers they use. Like, most people use the same big providers. We use AWS, Amazon Web Service. Yeah. And like, I would say they're best in class. Obviously it's Amazon. But I would, do your research. If you have those concerns, do your research. I'm more of I try out all these tools and break stuff and figure out what works. But if you're more of like, I don't know if you've read this book that breaks down, it's called Surrounded by Idiots. It talks about the different colors of people: blue, yellow, green, red.
Yeah.
Blue is very much like cautious, slow decision making.
Yeah.
Let's do our due diligence. Maybe you're red, yellow, Braden, which is like get stuff done. Like, most agents are also red, get stuff done. And then yellow is very much like people oriented and kind of like social. But yeah, if you're more that blue archetype, like, do your due diligence, do your research.
Yeah,
I would say.
My wife says she feels like she's surrounded by idiots, which is alarming because we just live together by ourselves. So I'm like, That's kind of not very nice, but so okay, that's perfect. Let's transition here into some spotting of potential areas for AI. I mean, we talked about the diagram of high value, low value, energy giving, energy draining. But from your perspective, before we transition talking to you about the chatbot specifically, like what are the things, like if you all of a sudden, hey, let's say you guys sell your business, you've had this exit, and now you're like, okay, what's the next thing in real estate we're going to do?
Yeah.
Like what are things that you look for that maybe could also give some insight for agents, or like, yeah, where do I even know where to start? I've got all this stuff that I do to run my business. What makes something a good candidate for automation or AI or both?
Mm-hmm. So again, back to your point, I would say start with the repetitive. So what's something you're doing? There's no point if you do something once a year to automate it. That's just going to take time to set up. Like what's something you're doing on a daily or weekly basis? I like, the first thing that comes to mind is like content, because everyone's on social. So like focus on like, how can you what's your content strategy right now? Maybe you film videos yourself every single week. You then have to edit them. You then have to caption them and post them. How can we create a system that we maybe do 1 day a month of filming, and then that creates enough content? For example, there's a tool called Opus, which cuts it up into a bunch of pieces of content, and then we can essentially schedule it and post it or caption it using these different tools. So like, I would just start with a very repetitive task that you do that you don't really like. So that could be content that's top of funnel. It could be like the documentation piece. So for example, when you have to send over a contract or send over some sort of agreement, I know when agents go into, don't they have to get some sort of signature before they work with the client?
Depending on where people are listening to this to, but like in BC, definitely when you're working with a seller, you would have a listing agreement of some fashion, and it's encouraged to have a buyer's representation agreement with buyers, but it's not a requirement. Whereas in some other jurisdictions it is. But yeah, I mean, it's good practice to have a written service agreement with someone who you're hoping is going to pay you for said service.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I would say there's 3 big areas that I would focus on. The first is around content and around generating traffic and building your brand. Tons of automation opportunities there. We can go in depth on some of the tools. The second one is around lead handling or lead management. So like, how are you generating leads? How are you dishing those leads off? How are you following up with those leads? How are you doing this all in a timely manner? And checking in with your sphere of influence as well. That's kind of like lead nurture, but that falls into lead handling, lead management. The third is paperwork.
Yeah.
So you can get an admin to do this for you, but you could also use AI to kind of streamline some of those activities. Sometimes I know documents have to go back 4 or 5 times, or there's like 10 different things we have to keep track of. You're downloading PDFs. You have all this stuff on your computer. Let's just have an easy checklist and make sure that as we do it, everything's getting ticked off. Our I's are getting dotted, our T's are getting crossed, and we're good to go. So like, those are the 3 areas that I would focus on as an agent.
And one of the things I talk about with agents that when it comes to automation is like, let's not forget about automation's cousin, semi-automation.
Yeah.
Right? To me, semi-automation is like a template in your email that you might fill in some details on, but the template is 98% the same every time you send it. Maybe you might put in, "Hi, Peter, and I'll see you at our podcast interview at 1 p.m. I might type those things in, but everything else might be generally an outline, right?
I love that. And like, Braden, we have emails that we've already drafted up, and we just copy and paste them and then just tweak the name, for example.
And so to me, that semi-automation, like for someone who's either not ready to let go of the reins to a robot, conjures up images of Terminator and Skynet and all that stuff. If you want to do semi-automation, it's like, well, you still get to hit send, and you still get to put the person's name in if you want, and the specific details. But when you're onboarding a new listing, there's an email template there. When you're onboarding or you're moving conditions, there's probably a high fives and hugs and congrats email that you send, or text that you send. I mean, even one of my friends, I think it was Sarah Kelke who was telling me about this. She's a agent in Edmonton. Like, she's got hotkeys set up on her smartphone. So when she does a series of letters, it automatically puts in like a paragraph that she's written. Cause like, what's that paragraph that you send every single time when you're in part of your client sequence? And it's like, instead of typing it every time or going back in and to the last time you said it and copying and pasting it and whatnot, like, why not just have it set up so it's @123 and then boom, it just appears on your keyboard. There, done.
That's cool. I don't even do that. I have my notes app, Braden, on my phone. You know the notes? I have like 3,000 notes, and then I have like all my texts that have worked historically. If something works, I just obsess over it. I'm like, this has got to work for someone else, and then I just copy paste.
Well, I'll send you my consulting bill after the pod. Just kidding. Okay. That's great. So semi-automation. So you're saying if it's repetitive, if it's lower value, you've given some good examples, administration, whatnot. And also I think there's opportunities to like create, this is the nerd in me. Anyone who's going to listen to or watch the show is going to know that I'm a full-blown sci-fi nerd. So like, there is the discussion of, now it's really controversial because Elon's attached to it. But anyways, there's like that little chip that they were testing to put into people's brains to help them with like dementia and like and whatnot. Of course, people are like, oh my gosh, like, they're going to take over our minds and, overlord us and whatnot. And we're going to become cyborgs. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure like we already are. And if you're listening to this, you can't see it. I'm holding up my cell phone, but like most of us carry this computer around with us in our hand most of the day. And it's, if we leave a room without it, we go back and grab it. And we're always like a few seconds away from finding anything. So I kind of think in a way we're already cyborging it up to a degree. It might not just be like built into us yet. But I had a specific example where an agent who had an assistant that was looking at turning down the amount of time that they had from full-time to part-time. And the discussion was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to hire a new full-time assistant, but I love my part-time assistant or I love my current assistant and, don't really want them to go, but I can't afford two, like a full-time and a part-time. And after looking through, we found that there's a number of examples where we were able to use automation and AI tools to equip that part-time assistant to be able to do essentially almost the same job, but in a part-time capacity, which then quickly shifted the conversation to, oh my God, I can't believe that I was paying for full-time hours when someone could have, with the right tools, could have done it in a 20-hour schedule.
Yeah.
Right. So there's opportunities there. Like, I think a lot of us think about automation and AI, but like how we use it. But I would say if you have a team, whether it's other licensed agents or it's perhaps an assistant or something, there's opportunities to equip your team with these tools and increase their productivity.
Totally. Because like if someone like an admin comes on your team, they're probably doing those more repetitive tasks that aren't the relationship oriented tasks that you're doing. So like, how can we help them and automate their life? Yeah. But then they'll just, what are they going to do? But yeah, no, there's always, I feel like there's always a hierarchy of tasks.
The higher value things, man. Like,
exactly.
If your administrative assistant is great with customers, but never gets a chance to chat them up because they're so buried in paperwork, I think you're actually like, you're increasing the value of your assistant by allowing them to do less or do more with less time. And then what would your business look like if your assistant could call your clients and just check in and see how they're doing on your behalf, not to replace you, but as an addition to what you're doing, instead of being buried behind a monitor because they're doing paperwork inefficiently. I don't know. I
think that's a great idea. They can start doing touch points.
Total client, go from administrative assistant to client care. And a lot of the assistants that we work with are doing that. And I'm not to suggest that, every assistant is doing it inefficiently, because I know that they are often like, they're the ones pushing the efficiency agenda in the business. But it is something to think about as a team leader or a leading member of a team, just being like, yeah, you know what, how can I make my team's jobs easier?
Yeah, sometimes I mistake the assistants for the agents, like because we'll be talking with the assistant the entire time, meeting with them, and then they'll be like, "I work for another agent," and we're like, "Oh, okay."
That's my kind of agent. There you go. They've got it figured out. So I want to ask you a little bit about your particular product and the problem it solves, because I do think in the grand scheme of things, my coaching mentor, Richard Robbins, said this so many times from stage. He's like, you can double your business one of two ways: by either generating twice as many leads as you are right now, or by doubling your conversion rate with the leads you already have. And knowing how expensive marketing is and lead generation is, I'm a big proponent of starting with, can we increase our efficiency and our effectiveness with what we already have? Can we do more with less? So tell us about Realty AI. Tell us about how it works, what problems it solves, and maybe like what would the steps be like if I wanted to slap one of these amazing chatbots on my website?
Yeah, so there's a few criteria that you need. One, you need to be an agent. Two, you need a website. And three, you need to have some sort of traffic. If
Okay.
you have those things met, and again, traffic could be, 100 visitors a month. It could be 1,000. We have agents or brokerages that have 50,000. The more traffic, the better, because the assistant works 24/7.
And just to clarify that, and not just 24/7, because it's not linearly like based off of the individual agent. It's like you could have 10 people,
multiple conversations.
you could have 10 people show up at once, and you'll have that all 10 will be served, which is really cool. It's like you have a barista that can clone itself depending on how many people walk in the front door. So go ahead.
And kind of how it works versus like a traditional chatbot or like a contact form is like a traditional form. You go to someone's website and then they say, "Hey, give me your name, give me your phone number, give me your email." What this does is it scares a lot of people off. People don't want to give their contact info unless they get something, and usually if they get something first. And so we take a very conversational, friendly, curious approach where we ask them, what they're looking for. We answer questions about the market, about the neighborhoods. She has access to the MLS. And it's sort of like more of a conversation providing value. And we actually noticed that 25 to 50% of conversations actually turn into contacts, which is a lot higher than like a contact form. So we often see like a 2 to 4x lift prior to using a chatbot to using one on their website. Mm-hmm. And some agents don't even realize that they're getting traffic until they put the AI chatbot on, and then it captures leads. And I will say, like, you can tell that it's AI, and obviously it says at the bottom Realty AI, but we have had some agents who've gotten like Christmas presents for Madison, like not joking. So like some people will think it's a real person.
Yeah.
If that's a good or bad
or
thing.
Some people are just like robots. I remember that, what were those little, you're way younger than me. Oh my gosh. What were those little egg things like that you'd have to keep? Remember those things? What were those called? Did you have them?
Like Kinder eggs?
No, they're like a little digital thing, and it's gonna kill me. I'm gonna
dino eggs that like
the little digital thing that you'd have to like feed
Tamagotchis.
Tamagotchi, yes. Yeah. People love their Tamagotchis, and that wasn't real. So there you go.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, we'll definitely edit that part out. We'll get to the part where I knew Tamagotchi sooner because I feel embarrassed that I didn't know that. Just kidding. Don't edit that out. Leave it in. As you're saying traffic, I just want to circle back to that for a second. You said, 100 a month to some people have 50,000 a month. But what, like, if we were just saying like the average individual agent that you work with, this is probably an agent who's doing 12 deals a year to 24 deals a year, maybe more, like that type of person that's reaching out to you. Not the super teams that have huge marketing ad spend. Like what is a benchmark level of traffic that we should be looking for?
I would say starting point, like 100 to 500 a month.
100 to 500 a month. And then for those of us like myself who don't know how to check that, is that
there's free tools. So there's like Google Console. There's another tool. Again, should have brought my SEO expert on, but we have a call actually in 10 minutes, but he does analysis of the website and shows them how much traffic and gives them tips on how to optimize. But there's free tools where you can like check. Yeah.
And then so back to the workflow, you get it set up. And what would an agent do once they have this chatbot set up, other than just like set it and forget it? Like what does the experience look like from the agent perspective? So customer arrives on website, chatbot pops up and asks a question. Then what happens?
Yeah, so the conversation starts, and then like I said, 25 to 50% of the time, they'll have an entire conversation, discuss like timelines, budgets. I want to see this property, capture name, phone number, email. As soon as that's captured, the agent will get a text and an email notification, and that contact will be directly sent to their CRM.
Gotcha.
Okay. We also have a dashboard that stores all this for backup, but the agent will receive a summary that'll say, Braden's looking for a 2-bed, 2-bath condo downtown. This is his timeline. This is his budget. This is why he's looking to move. And so they have all the context, so they can just click the phone number and call the lead immediately.
Interesting. And so I honestly can't believe this. This is not even my regular sales meeting. This is my own freaking podcast, and my managing brokers have still influenced me. I can't believe I'm about to ask you a compliance question, because that is like so their department. But you're working with agents across Canada, and sounds like some in North America. I can't speak to other provinces other than BC, but I understand. And again, I'm not a managing broker. I'm a business coach, but I hang around with managing brokers. So I pick up a few things. There's this whole thing called agency, and
Yes.
There's this thing called implied agency, and asking questions that are qualifying questions, depending on who you talk to, would say like, actually now I'm building a agency relationship with someone. What have you guys like looked into that? Or do you have different levels of inquiry from my chatbot based on like an agency perspective? Like how have you, if you have, like addressed that?
Yeah, no, this is something we've thought about. And obviously from working with thousands of agents, we have the guardrails in place. Most agents don't want to have a disclaimer, but we can easily add a disclaimer before they have the conversation of, I'm representing this agent, like, and they can literally see the agreement or whatever. Yeah. But Madison, she's not going to give advice. Okay. She's not going to tell them, look at these properties. This looks like it fits your criteria. She's really supposed to be a receptionist, like a virtual assistant on their website, who's there to capture information for the agent and then relay inquiries to the agent. So she's like that middleman. So she'll never recommend stuff or say like, if I make this and I have this amount of debt, what can I qualify for? She's not going to give financial advice. It's right. Like very much a capture system.
Gotcha. Okay. And I'll leave it to the managing brokers to send me their hate emails about whether that's enough. But I hear you on that. It's like, it's the old adage, like, when people come into an open house, as an example, and the person starts saying to you, oh yeah, we just sold our house in North Vancouver for this and that, and we're moving here and we're cash buyers. And we're kind of supposed to put the brakes on and be like, hold on, like, do you have an agent? You're not supposed to tell me that stuff. But I understand that in practice, that's not a common practice everywhere. So that makes sense to me. So as far as the system goes, like what exactly, I'm curious, like how much would I have to invest on, whether it's an annual cost or a monthly cost, to be able to have something like this set up on my website?
Yeah. So if you go to realty-ai.com, it's our new website. We'll launch it at the time that this recording comes out. There is new pricing, but there's a monthly plan and there's an annual plan. If you're with specific brokerages, you also get a deal, so you can reach out to us for that. But our typical plan is like $100 a month, or like $66 if you go for the year. So $66 a month, which works out to be like $2 a day. So less than a coffee. And so if you get one deal, you're laughing.
Yeah, that's the other, gosh, if I had $1 for every time I heard it's just one more deal, that's like the classic realtor explanation for every expense ever. But no, I mean, at $100 a month, that's easier to.
Is that agent math? You know how there's like boy math, girl math.
Oh yeah, no, it's agent math for sure.
It's just a deal.
It's just one more deal.
14K.
It's one more deal. That's hilarious. Okay, so I appreciate you've got a call in 5, so we'll start to land the plane here. But I do want to ask, putting this back into real numbers, you were saying the 25%. Sorry, that was the amount of people of traffic that end up engaging in a conversation that results in a lead, or did I miss that?
No, that's the amount of people who have a conversation that
Yeah.
result in like a qualified lead. Is
Wow.
25 to 50%. So
20
basically 1 in 3 people that talk to Madison actually go through the whole flow and then give their contact information.
Interesting. I'd be curious to know if you had the numbers on like how many actual people, like if we have 100 people come to our site, how many engage with the bot?
We do have those numbers, but they do vary a lot depending on the agent, depending on the way that the traffic's generated.
Sure.
So we find
okay.
like
Say more
people
about
that are organically finding it, it's a lot higher engagement than like they've clicked on an ad versus come from a YouTube video. So like we have agents where it's up to like 5%. We also have agents that is down to like 2%. So it can vary.
So if we said, as an example, 100 people, because I'm looking at the math, like 100 people is sort of a lower benchmark, and 2 out of 100, because that's 2%. And let's just, for the simplicity of it, call it 3%, because we need 3 to get our 3 to 1. So 100 people come in, 3 of them on the lower end will engage with Matheson, and 1 out of those 3 will turn into a lead that's delivered to the agent. That to me is a very compelling value proposition when you look at the cost of $1,200 a year. If you knew that the baseline person is getting 100 leads or 100 visitors to their website, that's a pretty good ROI opportunity.
We recommend 1,000, Braden. Like obviously, because if you have 1,000 visitors, you're gonna get like 7 to 10 leads per month kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's 120 per year. And then you can obviously realize like you're going to get deals. So it's like, because often like with an annual plan, it does take time, right? Because it's real estate. Like it'll take 3 to 6 months to close. Totally. But like, yeah.
There's no 6-minute abs in real estate, or abs apparently. So yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay. Last couple of questions here. The junk drawer question. Is there anything that we didn't discuss that you're like, oh man, I wish you would have asked me that question, or I think this is really important for our audience? Remember, we're talking to people right now that are, dipping their toe in the water of automation and artificial intelligence.
I mean, I don't think we went specifically into specific tools, but like we could get lost in the sauce there. So
yeah, and also the thing about tools that worries me is it'll be out of date in 3 days.
It could be. You're very much right. But I think just sticking to those 3 areas, like where's my biggest bottleneck? Where's my biggest time sucks right now? Is it my traffic? Is it content? Is it my lead handling, lead management, lead generation? Or is it like my paperwork admin stuff? Like what's my biggest headache? And then like focus on some tools that'll automate those processes, because systems scale. You have to have systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone's like, oh man, I wanted examples of tools, send me a DM on Instagram and I will send you the link to Peter's last sales meeting presentation he did for us. Would have been, what was that, like earlier?
That was in January.
It was in January. We're recording this in February, and I will send that to you so that you can see the latest and greatest tools, because he did the same presentations for us the year before and there were different tools, because that's how fast this stuff moves. Okay. So we're on a mission very specifically to help successful agents streamline their business. The measurable that we're putting the flag in the ground on is I want to help people get 10 hours a week back every 90 days while still growing their business, which is why I can't call it a tradition yet, because I've only asked this to 3 people, but this is what I want to ask people at the end of every interview. Peter, what would you do with an extra 10 hours a week?
That's a really good question, Braden.
It's amazing how much it stumps people. It's so funny. We're just so
that's
used
because
to
like, okay. And this might sound bad, but
go
like
on more dates?
If I would go on more dates, maybe. Okay. No. Oh my gosh, maybe sleep more.
Yeah.
Sleep helps everything.
For sure. So obviously I'm practicing what I preach. And one of the things I've added this February is I started walking to work. Let's just
like
everyone
that.
relax. Not every day. Like I'm a fair weather walker right now, but it's 20 minutes to work. It's 20 minutes back. I've been walking home to have lunch and then I drive my car back in the afternoon. But to me, it's like, I wouldn't have had the time to do that if I didn't embrace some of the automation and AI stuff that we're talking about right now.
Walking's huge.
Yeah.
You probably have some great thoughts in the morning too.
I do. Yeah, absolutely.
Power thoughts.
My man, I know you got to go. I appreciate you being here, and hopefully this is meant to be like an entry level conversation into AI and automation. So hopefully that hit the mark for people. If they have any questions about the program or anything, hit us with that website one more time.
Realty-ai.com, or you can just look up Realty AI on Google.
And do you have a chatbot on your website?
We don't.
What the
we gatekeep it.
Okay.
No, but you can bug some of our agents. You'll find their websites and you can go test it if you want. But I don't want to get into that conversation here, but we did have one.
Okay, sounds good. We'll save that for round 2. We'd love to have you back to have a little bit more of a tactical conversation in the future.
Totally. Yeah. No, I think we kept it high level today. And if there's any more questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Braden. Braden's obviously an expert in this stuff too. And yeah, it was great. It was a great conversation. Thanks for having me, Braden.
Thank you for watching Breakthrough with Coach B. If you're ready to grow by letting go, check out our website, bradenwheatcroft.com, for all of our free and paid breakthrough resources. Your future self and your loved ones will thank you. All right. Catch you in the next episode.